that this might be a really good time to take time to survey other library systems. Most of them dealt with this issue previously in the 90s, and as a result have slightly different funding models than we do. We have some support coming in that'll be limited for this year, but might be something we can work on a longer-term basis, thanks to both Mr. Katchman's gone and Mr. Sims, but they're both willing to work with me. We have procedures in place through the county for the staff if it becomes necessary to release the full-time staff in the near future. But it really gives us some time to see what's out there and what might be models that you might like to move towards when we know what the status is with regard to both the ERAF, the money that's owed. The downside of that, of course, is that I'd be looking to spend an additional amount out of the reserve that wouldn't be there if the state did come back at us.
Connie, let me ask a question, because I didn't understand it from the other day, I don't think. It reflects on Nyland, the prepaid rent, is that what that looks like?
No,
$100
we haven't prepaid it, but we have a contract, so whether we're open or not, we'll owe that amount.
Okay, right, so that's the $3,200.
Yes, sir.
All right, then it says here on your sheet, other costs engendered by closing of any branches, these could run up to $27,000 plus and include the costs. What does that mean?
Yes, when we were looking at what to offer you as far as the options, cutting within the anticipated revenue of $388,000. One of the models there, scenario 2, is to have you choose which locations you'd like to have open. The others will need to be closed, and I think it's pretty clear our headquarters is going to have to close, and we're going to have to find another spot to try and work there. Those would be the costs for that. It's going to cost us to move items out and transfer books. We have one branch where there'll be some costs to remove the facility itself. We have costs for headquarters.
So these are just closure costs then?
Yes, sir.
To close a library or headquarters?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Connie, these papers are public documents? They are now, yes. Okay. Public meeting, when they hand them out to us, they're available to anybody. Okay. Any questions, Connie? Thank you, Connie.
Thank you.
And then you'll submit your request.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And this is one that the board kind of needs to give us some direction on when you, I guess it's somewhat dependent on when we actually adopt the budget. Obviously, this one, almost all of the scenarios include some type of force reduction. Is that correct?
The last option does not. The others all include some.
Okay. So if the option is to go with a force reduction, of course, the longer we delay that, the more we're taking from the balance. But I'm not sure that's a major consideration.
Okay. When do you want to do that, Roberta? It's not on the agenda tomorrow. When do you want? You would like that sooner rather than later, I assume?
Well, I think we can do it in adopting the budget, but I would think the soonest we can bring it to you is probably the 24th to get direction on. And we can articulate then on the 24th what actual actions would need to be taken with each alternative.
Okay.
And just as a point of information, even the barest bones of the budget include through July 31st, so it gives us the 30 days necessary if we have to lay off.
And that's squeezing it very tightly to do it on the 24th. And I'm not sure if you'll be ready to do it on the 24th.
Okay.
And
So you'll bring this back to us for direction? Well, we're going to have to.
Yes, with the actions, all the actions that would need to be taken for each alternative.
Okay.
And I think Planning and Development Services is here to talk about Parks and
Yes.
Recreation Commission, I believe.
Right. That's the last listed on here, and then we'll be back to others.
No others.
And there may be others. I don't know. Good afternoon, Mr. Huberger.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Huber, Planning and Development Services Director. Thank you for the opportunity. And it's nice to be back. We had a very interesting morning. Where did you go? Mr. Landgruber kept telling the pilot to put the pedal to the metal, and 40 minutes up and 38 minutes back, so to Boulder City. So, very interesting park that we looked at up there, which is in keeping with what I'm going to present to you. The Parks and Recreation Commission has asked that you consider, that you seriously consider, some funding for the maintenance program of the parks, and you should have a resolution that they passed and a proposed budget, which they ask that I emphasize is a very bare bones budget, and this has to do with the Parks and Recreation Department.
I don't believe we have that.
I don't have it.
Hang on a second. Do we have it in the front of our deal? No, that's not the answer. Okey-dokey, is it going to be handed out?
Well, you can tell us about it.
Yeah.
You tell us about it and send it over?
I brought it over last week and this morning, so but I'll bring it to you again. Basically, what the Parks Commission did is they had some serious concerns about the maintenance of the parks, which I think most of you on the board share because you've looked at some of the parks and realized that they need better maintenance. In particular, since we're spending a great deal of money on Sunbeam and also on Weast somewhat, they felt that it was important that we take a serious look at how these parks were going to be maintained. So they asked that a budget be drafted up, which Mr. Bernay did, and presented it to the Parks Commission at a special meeting a week ago, since they're not going to meet until tomorrow again. And that budget includes basically 3 additional staff and then equipment. And a particular concern to us, aside from staffing, of course, is lawn mowing equipment. Since the lawn mowing equipment right now that we have at Sunbeam is a collection of various lawnmowers probably since World War I. They made them back then. Yeah, it is that bad. To me, frankly, it's not even worth living in the truck taking to the scrapyard because it costs more to haul it off. And that's being very kind.
They were still using horses.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And I think this had a hitch on it at one time, but somebody took off and put a motor on it. Anyway, we definitely are going to need more and some other things, some small tools, various things. Basically, the very bare bones that Mr. Bernay came up with is $161,000, and this is for the requirements for grounds care, at least Sunbeam, radio, etc. In addition to that, another $67,000 for a maintenance worker, and again, the related tools for that. Right now, you have park rangers that do maintenance of the facilities, and what the commission would like to see is that we have some dedicated personnel that actually do maintenance on these parks, especially all this new stuff that's going to require maintenance. I want to point out to you that there's very little in this proposed budget as far as first-year maintenance costs, such as fertilizers, things like that, because the park's brand new. As the years go on, you are going to be seeing things like additional fertilizers and equipment maintenance that breaks, sprinkler heads, they're going to get damaged in the process and so on, which for the first year we're basically figuring is going to be all covered by warranty or hopefully it doesn't get destroyed yet. So,
you mentioned the parks from Sunbeam Lake heading eastwardly and then north, but what about Ocotillo? I know that their ballpark out there is in sand, etc., but what about other maintenance and cleanup around there? Is that undertaken by the individual committee for Ocotillo or the volunteer group?
right now in the Ocotillo Park, we do have the benefit of the volunteer group doing the light maintenance. County maintenance is still done on any heavy stuff like repairing air conditioning, structural repairs, something like that. But the everyday sort of maintenance to that park is being done on a volunteer basis, so that's helping us out.
At the Lions Club.
It's the Optus Center of Optus or something like that, I believe it is?
Yes. It's the right group.
Yeah. So the request, again, on behalf of the Commission, Parks Department, is that you consider this as a bare bones augmentation or supplement to the budget for the parks maintenance facilities. And again, I wanted to emphasize this is all the parks, this isn't just Sunbeam, because we have other parks, as you know, and they all need maintenance desperately.